our next, and in fact first session, is all about the strategies that drive retail powerhouses and what's in store for the future. From collaborations to consumer behavior and retail expansion. This discussion will be packed with insights. I'm reliably informed. Now, our panel includes, and if you can give them a warm welcome to the stage, please welcome Vikas, Chadha, the CEO of Jumbo Group. Hameed Noor Mohamed, Managing Director of Alpen Capital. Sadique, Ahmed, CEO of RetailGPT. Mark Tesseyman, CEO of LIWA Trading Enterprises. Emin Imar, the General Manager of Hepsi Global. Lena Khalil, the founder of Mum's World. Manish Shabnis, the CEO of Grandiose. And to moderate this wonderful session, please welcome to the stage Bhavesh Morar, the Consumer and Retail Industry Leader from Deloitte. Ladies and gentlemen, your moderator and your panel.
No, it's fine. Grab a seat. All right. Good morning, everyone. Wonderful, wonderful to be back here at the Middle East Retail Forum again this year. Just a very quick introduction. I'm Bhav. I lead Deloitte's consumer and retail business across the Middle East region. And I've got the absolute pleasure of hosting this discussion here today with this group of esteemed leaders in the retail space. So what is the topic today? We're going to be looking at the changing landscape of retail. How is technology, how is innovation driving change? What are some of the macroeconomic factors that are at play impacting retailers? What are some of the pressing challenges? What's coming up next, and how will retailers continue to grow and scale in this region and beyond? So let's get straight into the discussion. Where I wanted to first start was around the consumer. The consumer landscape is changing. Buying behaviors, expectations are changing. So what would be really interesting to hear is, where do you expect areas of growth? Where will you continue to focus? And no pressure to set the tone for this conversation. Vikas, we'll start with you first, if that's okay.
Thank you. Thanks, first of all, RetailME, for having me here for this panel discussion. Look, we are all very fortunate that we are in Middle East. Middle East is a growing economy, especially UAE and some of the others as well. So there is a natural sense of growth that we are anyway getting because of the expansion of the population, the real estate growth, etc., and all the measures that the government is taking. Now it is important for you to grow faster than the competition, and in this changing landscape of the consumer, how do you grasp the attention of the consumer? And I think that is super critical. So we in Jumbo are focusing on three large principles to differentiate ourselves. First is to provide them, the consumer, an experience that is unmatched. Unfortunately, we are in an industry where the product is a product. Every consumer knows a phone, a laptop, and they have their biases when they come to the store. So our approach is to focus in terms of selection, to ensure that they select the right product, they don't overbuy, they don't underbuy so that they regret it tomorrow. Second, we customize it so that they come up to speed very, very fast, which could be a home deployment or could be something that we do at the store itself. And lastly, to ensure that they consume the product through the life cycle. So I think this is our way of differentiation and our way of growing in such a changing landscape, but that's the first principle. I think there is a lot that can be done on the upsell and the cross-sell as well. We heard just now Deloitte presenting, and guys, I'm going to hold you for the 10% retail growth in UAE, right? But in an inflationary environment, when a consumer walks into an electronics store, he or she is looking for an outcome. They are not looking for buying a product. They want to enjoy a movie. They want to get their kids' homework done. So it is important that you sell them a bouquet of products which eventually will meet the need that they want to achieve. And I think that dimension of upselling and cross-selling allows a retailer to engage with the consumer to understand the real need. And the last lever, for growth for us, we believe is service, and how we construct our offerings around not only the product, but to actually serve this customer throughout their asset utilization. In Jumbo, we have got a belief that we want to win the customer and serve them forever. And all our strategies of growth are around that. We all know how expensive it is to get a new consumer, almost 5 times the cost. So we would love to retain our customers through all these growth strategies. Thank you. Back to you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. So from the tech world to mom's world, Lena, maybe your perspective on the same question, please.
I think the part of the question that I'd like to focus on is really the consumer. And one of the things that was very clear in 2024 is how important it is to focus on the local identity. And although Dubai is very multicultural and there's hundreds of languages being spoken, we are predominantly an Arabic-speaking region, and there's a very unique Middle Eastern identity. And this year, the consumer exercised their identity more than they have historically. And because at Mom's World, we're looking at a very personal experience, and parenting is something you inherit from your parents. There's like generational assumptions about how children should be brought up, how kids should be put to bed, and how they should be fed. So doubling down on not only the new consumer or the younger generation consumer, but really understanding what's important, what's at the core. We did a lot of the campaigns this year just focused on doubling down on that identity, doubling down, we're an Arabic first platform. So really just highlighting that and saying, if you want to exercise your identity, you can bring your kids up in the old-fashioned Arabic way, and here are the tools, and here's the experience. We're going to complement it. We're not trying to, the world is full of innovation. We're not trying to revolutionize parenting. We're just trying to make it easier. So there's a lot that's being done from enabling the consumer from a technology point of view, and as an e-commerce company, we're looking at that all the time. But there is the human element and the connecting with the consumer on a more personal level.
It's a very interesting perspective. Thank you, Lena. Looking at the grocery and supermarket business, how does the consumer landscape changing impact you, Manish?
So I'll take up very interesting viewpoints by my fellow panelists. I represent grandiose supermarkets. I agree with Vikas that the first thing starts, the market is doing fine. There are segments, the premium, the popular, the economy, and this market not only has a lot of nationalities, I believe some 200 nationalities shop at our stores. And at every single store, the mix of nationalities is very different. If you come to Marina, there's a lot of Westerners. If you go to a place like Mardif, there is a lot of Arabics. If you go to a place like, let's say, Rose Homes or Karama is what we call it, Oud Mehta, there are a lot of Asians. So what we are first very, very clear about is from customization or standardization, because when you look at most of the bigger supermarket brands or hypermarkets, they have a big legacy, so they have to be standardized. We are a young brand, so we would be able to customize or personalize. So it starts first with assortment. The other difference that we are able to make to leverage this growth is, there are a lot of these small nationalities. And for example, recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we did celebrate an Armenian National Day. Yeah? So I know that the number of Armenians here in this crowd would be probably limited. But when you take the sum total of some of those, there's a lot of curiosity among people. Because as a customer, if we are upwardly mobile, we are well traveled, then we are looking for those differences, something new. So imagine if you were to walk into a grandiose store over the last few months and now going forward, if you are able to sample an Armenian cuisine, or maybe something from Costa Rica, something from Colombia, something from Georgia, then besides shopping for groceries, you definitely create that kind of a differentiation. So that differentiation can be created through experiences. The other differentiation, just looking at what Deloitte just presented before. So there is a move to be now more healthy, also to be seen shopping at a place which kind of mirrors the causes that you are looking at. So you are looking at now sustainability, waste management. So a couple of years ago, we took that call that the shopping bags that we would give would be completely made of paper. Even the containers that we would serve our food in would be made of paper. Of course, it's more expensive to us. It eats into our margins. But I think the customers to whom we are appealing to, they clearly see that differentiation. So they, especially the younger crowd, they really espouse these causes. And when they see you, and this is not lip service, you have to walk the talk. So when you look at that, then that differentiation comes through. The other thing which I think we are trying to do is, as a brand, we are not just any other supermarket. We are trying to have a big concept. Now, if I really ask you, this was whatever the issues were talked about earlier, there were personal finance and a couple of other issues got talked about. But if you really see all of us here in this panel and in the audience, what is that one single commodity that is scarce? It's actually time. It's actually time. A mom is hurrying her kids off to school. She's at her wit's end. What do I pack which is healthy and nutritious for the kids? What do I and my husband or spouse or partner, what do I have for breakfast? Can I grab some time at lunchtime for a nutritious meal? And I'm sorry I'm talking all about food because we are about food, so you have to excuse me about that. So the differentiation is, can we have a place, not just a supermarket, where you can shop, eat, play. We have a kids' play zone in our stores. Indulge. We have a lot of foods that can be tasted, sampled, which are very, very different. And can we gift flowers? So we have a grand rose. So when you have an offering which is very different, when you stand for a cause which is very different, and when you consistently keep appealing to your customers, then I think customers get it, and then you have a fan following. So what we are looking for is also, there are some amazing cheeses that we have. So we now have a cheese lovers club, a meat lovers club, a coffee lovers club. We have single farm, single origin coffee. Yeah, and I would take a bet here. Please come into our stores and sample our coffee and tell us what you think about it. So these are not empty marketing planks. We believe in that product and we deliver on that day in, day out. And that's what creates a real differentiation. So it's in positioning, it's in product, it's in the place, it's in the experience, and it's in the way we train our people. So cumulatively, it creates a fairly big impression, and we are on this journey.
Excellent, excellent. Purpose, social well-being, sustainability, key aspects that are definitely creating levels of differentiation in the marketplace. I think I'll join your coffee club as well pretty soon. But let me move us on to kind of investment in the region and expansion that we are seeing. Middle East continues to be an attractive hub for investment, local businesses, global businesses as well, and attracting investors, attracting various types of businesses. How has that positively impacted your business? And maybe, Hameed, if we can come to you first, because with the business that you're part of in terms of providing financial advice and so forth to organizations, what are you seeing in this space?
Addressing the first part, where the Middle East is an attractive place. See, 30 years ago, when I was working for a multinational bank, we had expats who used to come out here. And in those days, there used to be a hardship allowance if you had to move to Dubai. And the hardship allowance went up if you had to go to Sharjah. It was very difficult to attract talent in the old days. But now, it's just the boots on the other foot. People have the ability and the choice to get the right people out here. And how has that happened? It just happened because of the regulations, and I would say a little bit of forethinking from the regulators and the government out here. As an example, when Europe was going through some trouble in the diamond industry, you saw DMCC come up and create a diamond hub. Talking more close to my business, investment banking and private banking, 4 years ago at the height of COVID, the Dubai regulators made clear plans. They also put together the framework for high net worth individuals to move in. And you've seen a lot of family offices. Basically, the rich people are moving in. It's not just a lifestyle that they look for out here, but it's moving their money and their business out here. So, bottom line, it is the regulations, and I would say the foresight of putting in the right infrastructure and the right ecosystems that is attracting people, and that naturally leads to growth in business. Very simple.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark, would you agree with that from your perspective, or are you seeing anything different?
Yes, morning everybody. Nice to be here. You can't see it, but there's a massive clock here giving us the countdown for the whole thing, which is pretty cool. And I have to congratulate my colleague for the best pitch for grandiose I could have ever heard. It's very well done. Yes, I would concur. I mean, the fiscal policies of the government, I think, have been nothing other than spectacular. Because when the globe was falling apart during COVID, etc., I think all the policies that have been implemented are generally coming to fruition now. You can see that happening. If you look at the population, let's just concentrate on UAE. It's only 12 million people. It's half the size of London. So yes, high net wealth people want to come to live in this wonderful, beautiful place. But they're not the people that are going to stay here and live here all the time. You know, they'll be traveling and doing all sorts of other things. You know, we need more general population in the total GCC. We have to have more people so that we can grow and prosper, because the market has to get bigger. It's very, very simple, and people don't talk about it enough, I don't think. There are just not enough people in the market to be able to grow sustainably unless that changes. I think from a business perspective, what we're seeing is with our partners, we're seeing some of our partner businesses now being prepared to come and base themselves here. You'll see lots of regional hubs here. I mean, I think there's one statistic that's quite interesting. I think 80% of the developed world is within about 5 hours of Dubai. And if that's the case, global hubs for logistics in particular, one of our partners from Italy, OBS, they've just opened their hub here. We've just done a deal with a manufacturer from China who has their own label and brand. They're looking at bringing their manufacturing base, or one of their manufacturing bases here, because it's closer to their markets. And those things would never have happened before without the fiscal policies being in place for them to get the tax benefits, get investment. So, and our chairman, fantastic guy, very innovative, hugely entrepreneurial. He's actually in Shanghai at the moment with our partner, working out how we can do some other things so that he can add to his portfolio of businesses. So I think the structure is there. I think the policies are there. It's just about how those things will manifest over the next years to come, I think.
Okay. Lena, your perspective, how's the investment in the region helping your business?
So there's a huge focus on innovation and fast growth, and I've been involved recently with more of the unicorn projects. So now I believe even the UK copied the UAE and Saudi and launched their own unicorn projects. So I think there's a lot about propelling local businesses, and it trickles through. So when governments make announcements that they are going to ensure that we have a UAE unicorn or a Saudi unicorn, it attracts other entrepreneurs, it brings innovation to the region, and the number one beneficiary of this is the consumer. There's a mom that actually told me over dinner, she goes, thanks to all the VCs and the PEs, they're making delivery to me in the middle of the night so much better. So I think it is very structural, and these big announcements, although they seem very ambitious, they do ripple through all the way down, and they're attracting, as it was said previously, they're really attracting the right talent, and it's people that makes the experience, and it's important to bring more of the talent to the region.
Thank you, Lena. Right, Amin, I'm going to come to you next, and we'll change tact a little bit in terms of comparing the traditional brick and mortar business with your e-commerce operators. And your business is an online retailer, so you should be able to provide a good perspective on this. What we're seeing in the region is that there's a lot of development happening where customers have choice, where they can go and shop within their localities in a very short space of time. So how does that impact the strategy between a traditional business and an e-commerce operator?
Good question. The thing is, actually, I think since I'm working at a pure play e-com company, and as expected that the e-com penetration will increase year by year, and this is what we have been seeing, and the COVID accelerated that super fast. However, I think traditional retail will never die. It just changes into brick and mortar, and will probably come to a point where it's stabilized. For example, like during COVID, our sales exploded, but however, after that, people needed to go out, like socialize, touch stuff, and actually the trend reversed right after COVID, and traditional retail picked up. But this is where I think brick and mortar players need to put more focus on online part of their business and somehow give the consumers what they want, which is to touch the stuff sometimes, but not all the time. For example, you go to a store, you know what you like, you know what you feel, and then you can just order it and not deal with carrying it. And then for your next purchases, since you know what you're wearing, the size and everything, then it becomes automatic. This is why I think it's always important to do that. And as e-com players, we also use that. We open sometimes just temporary stores and shopping malls, etc. It will always be there. And another thing I think is this PUDO points, pick-up, drop-off points. I've been doing cross-border e-commerce for the last 7 years. And one thing I noticed that from country to country, culture to culture, shopping experience varies incredibly. For example, in Russia and those countries, like ex-Russian countries as well, almost more than 90% of the purchases are made like this. And there are over 10,000 pick-up points, drop-off points, just like stores. You order online a few items, you go there, try, and there are actually people there. Things like so. This is another experience. I was surprised when I first learned about this, but it doesn't work in every country. It's really different. This is why I think you have to understand your customer, and if you are working in an organization like us, which sells to tens of countries around the world, you have to pick the right cluster where you can actually succeed in that country, and then after you do your homework, set up your strategy and go from there.
Cool, thank you. Manish, omni-channel business. What are you seeing the difference between traditional versus your e-commerce play?
I'm seeing a lot of development happening. For example, the latest is, of course, Dubai South. And when I talk to some people, let's say staying in Al Furjan, etc., they are now saying that, we would like something which is in our community. So I think the future is store of the community. And there has to be a focal point. In the, I would say, good old days, you used to have anything which is happening in that community. Say you needed a driver or you needed domestic help. So that is actually advertised at the local grocer. And people actually look to there, or they go to the local tavern or the tea shop or the coffee shop to have a good time. So I think what people are missing now is a store of the community. So I think as developers expand more and more into all sides of Dubai Creek Harbour is coming up. Of course, there's Dubai South, like I told you. And I think the retail is kind of moving along with the private developers to create more and more stores of the community. And what is a store of the community? There will be one anchor tenant where you can do all your shopping. Like us, we also offer eating options, a pizza and whatever. But there are different allied services. So for example, a salon, a chemist, let's say even a pet grooming store, and 2-3 other services. So when you have everything in that and you have adequate parking, I think that's where consumers are looking at. Now, if you really see the traffic and you see that road going to Sharjah, you see, I got very badly stuck in DIFC 2 days ago. Even Marina here and the bridge is pretty terrible. And again, I keep saying people are now valuing time. And therefore, e-commerce definitely has a big future. But if you are into experiential retail, then you better get closer and closer to the customer with your experiential retail. And in omni-channel, I think from an economic perspective, you can have dark stores. But we found that in our grocery business, it makes sense to have picking from the store and serving. So you have a certain cost and a capex of setting a store up. You do your, become a store of the community, and then have a larger radius to which you can deliver, and then the economics works out. So that's where I think the whole game plan is with the developers as we expand into not just Dubai, but other Emirate countries also.
Great, great. We'll stick to the topic of technology, and Sadique, I'm going to bring you in here around, technology continues to rise. You can't go to a conversation these days and not talk about Gen AI and various other innovative technologies. What I'm really interested in, though, is how can retailers and technology enablers like yourselves really work a lot more closely, collaborate, and give a better experience for our consumers?
Well, the biggest moving part is the changing behavior of the consumer, right? And the biggest challenge to a retailer is to know his customers. There is a very limited, the industry average that based on our research and statistics, less than 10% of the customers is what the retailer is aware of. He doesn't know the remaining 90% of them. It differs from category to category, but that's how much a retailer is struggling. So all the strategies what our panelists had spoken just now can come to life only when you know your customers. Okay, so discovery of a consumer is the biggest challenge which technology can solve. Then only when you discover your consumers and you also have your consumers, you then will move on to understand how to increase the wallet share within their store for these consumers. Is it a growing trend or not? The third piece is how do you enable the store in a way that it has a digital extension so that it can serve more people within the primary and secondary and tertiary catchments as well. So technology is required, is the only driver that can add wings to the retailer struggle to enable all these strategies, whatever we've been speaking so far. Without tech, nothing is happening. So that's how, with Gen AI, the user experience for consumers has become even more simple, conversational, and that's what brings the consumer close to the brand. And also the ability for the brand to reach out to the consumer within their personalized requirements is the need of the hour, which technology can enable.
Vikas, in your business, would you agree with that? How are you working with the enablers?
Yeah, I completely agree with that, at the heart of it is the consumer. And I also agree with the fact that without a leading tech stack, as a retailer, you're nowhere. So there is a situation in the market that if you look at the startups or the new companies that have come up, 9 out of 10 are tech-led. Their USP, their differentiation, their value proposition to the consumer is not so much the product, but the tech. The existing retailers have a disadvantage that they are sitting with a baggage and a store set and an old legacy setup, and also a board and a shareholder, stakeholder who's asking them for returns immediately, unlike a startup which is perpetually for some time having different metrics to deal with. So I have found personally that tech can be very overwhelming for a CEO and the overall organization. And what we do is, and what we believe is that eventually tech has to lead for your company to become a company easy to do business with for the consumer, for the vendors, and also for the employees. And you can create a moon in terms of what you want to do and where your tech will take you. But that journey typically ends up being quite painful. And I think where I look for collaboration from the tech enablers is to less and less customize, give more solutions which can be deployed so that future upgrades, etc., become easier, and we are not like stuck with our own legacy system, which then it's very difficult to address and maintain, etc. But you know, without tech, there's no future for the retail industry.
And extending technology, the other aspect of the influence is around social media, right? A lot of influence, a lot of information now available to our customer base through social media. So how, you know, Emin, maybe you can take this first. You know, how do you ensure that the digital footprint remains attractive, remains relevant for the consumer base?
Like you have to be genuine. Like that's the main thing. So old school advertising doesn't really work in social media. What we find useful is always, like, it's very detailed, but I'm not going to go into details right now. We have an extensive, for example, micro-influencer program, and also personally, I find them, these micro-influencers, much more attractive to customers than large influencers, like famous people, where you pay and they just advertise your product and you know that they are not using it. Rather than that, for example, gaming. Like, we are the leader in electronics in Turkey, and we are using, like, we are working with actual gamers where people admire and hold events, and then they post it in social media. I mean, and this is how it happens. Like, this is how it's more effective. Or just like everyday people, parents taking care of their kids, how they buy their school stuff for them. So this is much more, I think, influential than other stuff. And also, now social media is merging to social commerce. So this is even, I mean, it works better in Asia, I know, but now it's coming to, for the last 3 years, I think, to our region as well. And there are players who are actually using it very effectively. And I think if you use social commerce very well and combine it with your social media strategies and on your own platform, this is how you can make an impact and leave that digital footprint last longer and more, genuine.
Okay. Lena, in terms of Mom's World, what's the impact of social media, social influence on your organization?
We always say, like, wherever there's a mom's world. And today, the attention span of the consumer is firmly focused on social media. So wherever they are, we have to be. So we do run offline events, but we do find that although the impact of what we do offline has a big ripple effect on our social media, just doing social media, aligning with the attention of the consumer, of the social media trends, using the platforms they use, and it's evolving. So, you know, like, for a while, it was Facebook, but that's like grandma generation now, Instagram, now it's TikTok. So your team has to be super agile and move with the consumer. And different content gets a different reaction on a different platform. So that's quite a nuance you have to be careful when applying. So there's no avoiding it. You've got to do social media. You've got to do it really well. And you need to kind of, it has to embody your brand and be very, very genuine. So like that, genuine where it really matters. And your team has to be super aligned with the consumer. So we do talk to moms all the time. We meet them. We meet moms twice a week in 2 regions, and because things do change, and moms are, there was a website in the UK called Mumsnet. They could change MPs. I mean, when a mom decides she's going to change the traffic system in a school, she will change it. So I think, like, when there is a trend, there's a change in interest, you need to be very attuned and very aligned and very genuine about your engagement on social media. And it's tricky. It's a two-edged sword.
Okay, thank you, Lina. Sadique, what's coming next in terms of the technology revolution? How can enablers like yourselves who are constantly innovating help retailers further?
The personalization is what is going to be the next leap for any retailer. The ability to personalize and seamlessly integrate the in-person footfall with the online behavior of the same customer, so that the customer behavior is well understood by the retailer, so that they can personalize, engage with them. So this is what is going to be the future, and the technology is available for enabling all of this in a much more engaging way, so that the customer experiences is incredibly delightful, and you customize your shopping behavior around the personalization of the consumer itself. So the tech that is available today enables even the smallest strata of the customer to be understood when he's in the retail point, to which products he loves to buy, and what does he look forward into these products. And the biggest move of digitally extension the physical store, that's what we call a phygital world. That's what is going to be the answer to the moving part, which is the changing behavior of the consumer, because you're very close to the consumer when you engage with him. So that's what is going to drive growth for a retailer.
Thank you, Sadique. Geographic expansion, next topic. Maybe I can come to you first, Hameed. Where are you seeing in the Middle East region, where are retailers looking to expand geographically?
Two ways: looking to expand or should expand, right? I would just say two directions. Direction one, look east. I mean, South Asia is a natural destination for all the major retailers out here, and even minor retailers to go and have a look. Population, plenty of cash to spend. And it's not just India when I say South Asia. Take Bangladesh as an example. Don't discount it. It may look like a basket case today, but the amount of middle class out there and the spending capacity that they have is far superior to many of the other countries. That's one region. And the second one, I would say, look southwest. Egypt and East Africa. Egypt, naturally, with its population and spending habits. And East Africa is something that people should not discount, again, like I said, about Bangladesh. There is a huge, I would say, young, growing population with an increasing amount of disposable income. Now, naturally, when you want to expand, you want to see where people have the ability to spend money and purchase your goods. So if you ask me about geographic expansion, these are easy places to go to, closer to the region, and also, I would say, culturally more acceptable for the retailer to go ahead and establish. Of course, some of the large retailers from here have done that, and I would say we should have more of them going out.
Great, thank you. Mark, any expansion plans for LIWA trading?
Maybe not that far at this time. I think nobody wants to be bleeding edge. I think and it can be very, very expensive. I mean, you even got to look very close to home now, even if you look at what's going on in KSA. Again, strong fiscal policies about wanting to develop and grow the market. Population, 30-odd million. Government ploughing loads of money into that market, and that's very close to home. Lots of retailers have gone into that market, but to be quite frank, not seeing the returns on investment. So the question is, when? Timing, I think, is critical to go into markets. I mean, we've already had a policy of making sure that we go into markets when we think the time is right, when things are a little bit more developed, when things have settled a little, when all the GLA has settled down a bit, when the new builds on all the malls has happened, and you can kind of, not cherry pick, but sometimes it's better to be there second time round, not first time round, if that makes sense. Because the economics generally make more sense when other people have tried and other people have failed. You go in and you can generally pick up some very good deals to grow in those markets. I concur completely with the Eastern markets. And I think if you look at the global retail, if you take one step back and you look at the total global retail sector, and you ask yourself who's actually doing well, well, there's actually not very many places. So if you look at America, basket case, Europe, basket case. Come here, we're in a little bit of a bubble because of what's happening from the economic stimulus. Then you go a little bit further east, and things start to get a little bit better. Strong population. Back to the population comment that I made earlier. Lots of people generally mean that you've got more chance, I think, with an insightful strategy to generally make some money. And then think about it the other way. It's about brands that are... I've never been busier or had more emails from brands wanting to come here. It's the other way around. You know, people want to come here, never mind us wanting to go elsewhere. It's people wanting to come here. And why is that? Well, it's generally because their home markets are stifling and stagnant or negative. So they're looking to the international markets. So I don't think we're quite in that phase at the moment. I think there's more for us to go at here, most certainly. We're concentrating on looking at changing some of our sectors that we're operating in, changing some of the commodities that we sell. You know, we used to be heavily wedded to, you know, sort of mid-market fashion, and that's become a bit of a bloodbath. So you've got to think differently about where you go. And then if we're thinking about going to other markets, there's lots and lots here. You know, KSA, big market, but then where else is there? There's the sleeping giant in Iran that nobody wants to talk about. You know, nearly 80 million population. Population generally, I think it's 80% of the population's under the age of 50 or something like that. You know, they're rich, they're trendy and fashionable, and one day that market will unlock. It will. I mean, it's going to happen because the youth will make it happen, I think, as it has happened in other parts of the world. So whilst you're developing these strategies about broader international markets, you also need to look at what's on your doorstep and think about what you can do. But certainly brands out in, I think Asian brands, Eastern brands will want to come here. I've already mentioned the fact that we've done a deal with one. So I think there's plenty more to go at, and this region is going to be more attractive in just as much as it is out.
Okay. And Mark, we'll stay with you, because I think related to that is also competition. You know, as competition increases, as there's more traction here in the region, how are you going to continue to increase your market share?
Well, you have to the first question is the market actually getting bigger? Because if the market's not getting bigger, that's a fundamental problem. And the market will get bigger through population growth, investment growth. And if you think about where you're at by the sectors, we know, for example, that the mid to premium and luxury markets have been the most robust here. Why? Because the high net worth people have come here. So that's where they're spending. It's absolutely rock solid as a business. And I already mentioned that we weren't there before. Now we've got strategies to put 2 or 3 brands into that sector, the sectors we've never been in. So we want a piece of that pie. But hopefully that pie is going to be a little bit bigger. So how are we going to do it? Well, we're going to do it in a way that we're going to look at those brands and we're going to say, actually, we want the product that have been sold, if they're premium luxury products, but we don't want to overprice them, because that'll be the USP. So if you're Loro Piana quality, which one of the brands we will bring to the market is, but it'll be about 50% cheaper than Loro Piana prices. The trick then will be to market that brand properly through social media and all the other channels that are available to us now. And you have to work harder in that area to get bigger market share than before. But competition's always been there, and there's always been winners and losers. You've just got to make sure you're on the winning side, not the losing side. Not always easy, though.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, all right. I'm going to go for one penultimate question before we look to wrap up the discussion. Topic of ESG, right? Very hot at the moment. A big social purpose agenda is important for our consumers as well. So what can retailers do to really ensure that they've got a strong ESG agenda? Vikas, maybe you can take that one.
Yeah. So I think ESG is today cornerstone. I'm talking from a Jumbo perspective. It's a cornerstone of our business. It's not just a buzzword. It is something that the consumer really cares for. From a consumer point of view, today they are looking at buying products which are more aligned towards ESG. They are looking at ways in buying which are more meaningful for the overall sustainability and society. So as a brand, and they're looking at brands to be very transparent in terms of telling them, we sell today brands that claim, and they say that 90% of the material that they are using in their product is recycled, right? And we have had instances when youngsters have walked in and specifically asked that brand has that claim, can you get us that laptop? So I think the consumer is becoming way more aware that they can make a huge contribution to it. And so is the corporate. For the corporate side, there are multiple things that you can do as a retailer. You can look at efficient supply chain, including the last mile delivery. You can look at energy efficient solutions. You can also make a social impact, and along with that, carry your workforce. We are fortunate in electronics that we are also into a circular economy because we do repair of the products as well. So we represent almost 50 brands for service. So we ensure that wherever we can elongate the life of a particular asset, we do that. And if we have to recycle it, we recycle it in the manner which is the best manner prescribed by the brand. So multiple things, as brands, as retailers, we can do. But let me tell you, the biggest challenge here, or the biggest opportunity, I would say, for the retailers is that how do you transparently communicate, document first, and communicate to the consumer what you are doing. And my friends, all of us, if we don't have a designated person in our team who holds the responsibility of the ESG goals, then I think we are in trouble. Yeah.
Thank you, Vikas. All right, final question. Quick fire question to each of you. In a few words, if there's no constraints financially, no money constraint, what would be your first investment priority to make your business future-proof? We'll go with you, Amin, first, and then go in that order.
If that's the case, I would spend all the money to understand the customer, the consumer, just like what your company does. In every touch point, not just on our platform, online, offline, do surveys and capture like all the interaction that we could do so that we can understand them and serve them better. Because it's a never-ending thing.
Thank you, Amin. Lina?
So supply chain enablement to kind of align the assortment in the region to global assortment.
Okay.
For me, it's all around predictive analytics, I think, and where that's going to take us. I've got a 35-year-old daughter, a 25-year-old son, a 4-year-old grandson, and the 35-year-old to the 25-year-old think completely different. The 4-year-old off this planet, and we need to know what the future is going to be thinking so we can react accordingly.
Manish?
I would invest all my money in understanding the customer, CRM, loyalty, and analytics, because everything else can work from what we learn.
Yeah, very similar. I'm going to invest all my money in personal commerce, and it'll start with a great CRM system, which captures the data in the most seamless manner from the consumer.
Being a tech company, I would look forward to enhance innovation and spend more on tech.
Thank you. Hameed?
I would say tech, more on data and AI. That's how you would make it future-proof.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, for your insights and sharing your experiences. Let's give a round of applause for our panel members.